Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, is a 1993 animated movie released alongside the Dragon Ball Z lineup, which is the only Dragon Ball movie to my knowledge that received its own trilogy, in the form of two other movies that released a year later. And what shocked the Dragon Ball community, including myself, especially myself, is that this movie received a bit of a glow-up within the Dragon Ball Super continuity in its own theatrical release film, Dragon Ball Z Super Broly, in 2018. This 2018 movie is basically a complete reboot / reimagining of the 1993 original, reworking it into Super continuity, which is the current Dragon Ball Z anime. And so that's what we're going to talk about here today, on who did it better. Except before that, this 2018 iteration of Broly actually covered another Dragon Ball Z movie, that being Bardock, the father of Goku, and put it into its opening sequence. In order to avoid confusion with myself and for you, the viewer, I'm just going to be right at the start comparing the Dragon Ball Broly sequences on Planet Vegeta with their original DBZ counterparts right away, since their original DBZ counterparts take place at completely different points than the beginning of the movie. So, it just makes it easier on myself. Now, without further ado, let's get started with the Planet Vegeta sequences. One thing to note in the Planet Vegeta opening sequence of the new Broly movie is that it really excels at visual storytelling. The movie starts off with the Frieza Force flying towards Planet Vegeta, and immediately, in almost every single shot, it shows how small the Saiyans look in comparison to the Frieza Force. Even when they're just simply landing in the courtyard, they look almost like little ants in comparison to their might. Even just simple still shots still have the Frieza Force, King Cold, Frieza himself dominate the shot and make it known that they're the ones in control here, not the Saiyans. Frieza, of course, is his usual cocky, spoiled self, introducing the Scouters to the Saiyans for the very first time, and being super into blowing up a bunch of Saiyans who had their weapons drawn at him and were trying to assassinate him. Overall, yep, Frieza is still Frieza. But that's not where the Planet Vegeta sequences in Dragon Ball Super Broly focus on, really. It's all about King Vegeta, Paragus, and Bardock. The first 20 or so minutes of this movie really gives you a sense that, right now, it's about the parents of our three main characters, and not anybody else. Starting off with King Vegeta, I believe the improvement lies in, unlike with Paragus and Bardock, not with what was added on or anything really to make him be more fleshed out, but what was taken away so that the DBZ King Vegeta and a movie version of King Vegeta more lined up with each other. See, when developing characters, even if you have a poorly written story, consistency is key. Even if your story or characters aren't the best, at the very least, your characters would be consistent. That is not present in Dragon Ball Z Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, when it comes to King Vegeta. In DBZ, King Vegeta was basically portrayed as Vegeta, but probably 3 times as worse. Very arrogant, very cocky, and, unlike his son, a bit of a narcissist. And had an epitome for wiping out races as well. However, in DBZ Broly, he was portrayed as sort of like this odd savior complex, where he tried to kill Broly, and because his power level was too great. This was not consistent with what had been shown with his character in the past. And in Dragon Ball Super Broly, King Vegeta is again a prideful cunt of a king, and he decided to ship Broly off to some backwater planet because he could not handle having a commoner child with a latent power stronger than his own son's. And by extension, Paragus' story is also framed as more logical sense, as in DBZ Broly with the whole savior complex type deal. It was framed as King Vegeta was killing off a valuable asset and not his son. I don't know if that was the writer's intention, but that's how it came off as. And in Dragon Ball Super Broly, now he's going to the backwater planet to try and find and save his son from extinction. Which is a good thing, because it's a father finding his son. He loves Broly. However, the same cannot be said for Bardock, who isn't really connected to these two at all. Just being a lower class Saiyan who lives in a hick shack. The one thing that Dragon Ball Super Broly fails in regards to Bardock, and to a lesser extent his son Kakarot, oh look at him, he's so cute. What they are lacking is a literary device that was present in their previous DBZ iterations, that being situational irony, which is irony involving a situation in which actions have an effect that is opposite of what was intended. Bardock and little Kakarot don't have this in their new stories. See, Goku's origin story in the original Dragon Ball show was that he was sent to Earth to conquer it. And also because he was a lower class warrior, and thus sending him to a backwater planet was fitting for him. And then he became Earth's greatest savior and one of the strongest beings in the universe. And now in Dragon Ball Super Broly, that irony is lost, with Goku simply being sent to Earth by his parents because they think Frieza is up to no good. Really hammering in those Superman parallels. As for Bardock, his situational irony comes at the moment of his death. See, his bad intuitions about Frieza come true, and Bardock is blown away as he tries feverishly to stop Frieza. But in the original DBZ Bardock, the father of Goku, we get to see the Saiyan planets a little bit more in depth. His squad is killed, and then he basically goes on what I can only describe as an anime Rambo rampage. Now, the situational irony that arises from the moment of his death is that Bardock was given the power to see the future earlier in the movie by an alien race he destroyed. And as he's falling apart, he sees that his son Kakarot, it will be the one to defeat Frieza. So Bardock is the one who gets the last laugh. Without this literary device present, some of the impact is taken away from Bardock and Goku. And, the death in Dragon Ball Super Broly just feels very quick, and there's no visible impact at all. While there is some niceness to appreciate, like you get to finally see Goku's mama, it doesn't really feel much of an impact in the overall grand scheme of the movie. Now we jump 30, 40 years into the future with the present day of Dragon Ball Super Broly, as well as the original 1993 Broly, with the Sons of the Fathers. I did say Sons of the Fathers, and that's who I'm going to start off with. This time with Goku. After the South Galaxy is destroyed in the opening sequence of DBZ Broly, Goku is called by King Kai to help find the person responsible and, I guess, punch him to death. Now on to Vegeta, as Goku's plotline doesn't get brought up until much later. An egg-shaped spaceship descends from the sky, and off it is Paragus, who offers Vegeta his own new planet that he is building. New Planet Vegeta. Vegeta, weirdly enough, agrees to this out-of-nowhere proposition, and he, along with Paragus, his out-of-nowhere army, and Trunks, Krillin, Gohan, and also Master Roshi, the pig, all set out to new planet Vegeta. Not much growth or development happens for these two, to be perfectly honest. Goku honestly randomly teleports in the plot after following the gang's energy signals, trying to figure out who is the legendary Super Saiyan. And Vegeta, well, after Broly goes cuckoo, he basically does a repeat of the Frieza fight in DBZ, where he kind of just floats around and stands around until he's finally motivated enough to take on the impending force. As for this movie as a whole, it has something that a lot of earlier Dragon Ball movies have, which I like to call the Z-Warrior syndrome. The Z-Warrior syndrome is a syndrome where earlier Dragon Ball movies must have had a decent amount of Z-Fighters in every single movie, even if it made no logical sense. And that's what happens here. Master Roshi, Oolong, and Gohan don't really have a reason to be on this planet. They're suspicious of Paragus' story, but that's about it. Out of the entire cast, only Trunks has a reason to go along with Vegeta, because he's concerned about his father. With so many differing perspectives in this movie, it really feels like the characters are hurt because of this. Goku doesn't really have any development. Well, he is a flat character, so I suppose that's to be expected. But Vegeta just goes through the exact same development he had in the Frieza saga. As for Broly, his character and personality, he doesn't have much. As I said before, the B-plot honestly seems to suffocate this movie and make the actual main plot feel very condensed. Case in point, Broly. Broly spends most of the movie being incapacitated by his father. That is the main crux of his screen time. And there's not really much to him other than that and his backstory, the flashback on Planet Vegeta. And it turns out that the reason why Broly destroyed South Galaxy is because he heard the name Kakarot. Why is he triggered by Goku's given name? Well, it's because he cried a lot. And as usual, TFS Vegeta continues being my spirit animal.
But you don't understand! The legendary Super Saiyan is motivated by a crying infant! He is a literal giant f***ing baby! So kind of what you're being right now.
This is where the contradiction arises. If Broly can get triggered by Kakarot's name, and to a lesser extent his face, shouldn't that also mean, as part of his PTSD, he gets triggered by Vegeta's face, since he was stabbed by Vegeta's father, who looks almost exactly like him, just with a goatee. Not only that, but whatever little Broly does have in this movie feels like an identity crisis. It almost feels like the movie wanted to do both, make Broly a sympathetic antagonist, while also having cartoony villainy, as being a overblown powerhouse of a monster, as well as his father Paragus, although Paragus isn't as strong as Broly. This movie tried to make Broly and Paragus both sympathetic and serious antagonists while also be cartoony. And it just does not work within a 90-minute runtime. That is why, from my perspective, the sequels do a better job of telling their stories, because they just go with the big bad monster absolute powerhouse route. However, the 2018 movie attempts to rectify the 1993 original by making Broly a little bit more sympathetic and with an actual personality. Dragon Ball Super Broly this time around is actually about Broly. His screen time is given the proper consideration it deserves, as well as Paragus. And they're dealt a more sympathetic hand than the cartoon villainy of the 1990s. What I mean by this is that Dragon Ball Super Broly is not just about their vengeance. Paragus and Broly are given slightly more depth, and also You get to see them interact with other characters, not really motivated for vengeance. Broly is given the most care and attention because his father isn't trying to incapacitate him the entire movie repeatedly, and instead the incapacitation only happens once just to establish that plot point. And Paragus's plan is given slightly more narrative sense, as Frieza is the one who tells him where Vegeta is. Frieza is the one who flies Paragus and Broly to the planet where they fight. And Paragus's plan is now more so, I'm going to use Broly to beat Vegeta and prove to the king who's the strongest. Now, the main story improvement honestly comes from having there be just two alternating perspectives and a third lesser, instead of just three flowing narratives all at once. They're at the same story point. That is what I believe hurt the 1993 original the most, having three plot lines happen simultaneously. I won't get too much into story details, as probably not everyone has seen the 2018 movie. But I will say this, Broly does go off the rails later down the movie, only it's not due to a name, nor crying, it's due to seeing his father Paragus get killed. That's right, Broly actually loves his father in this movie.
You know, you don't have to do everything that guy tells you to do.
It's not right for you to say bad things about him. He is my dad.
Now for the last topic of today's video, visuals and designs. I feel as though both movies actually do a phenomenal job with their visuals. There are some very beautiful shots, even if the tone of the 1993 original does not exactly match up with the visual presentation. The movie transitions naturally into modern visuals while still keeping it Dragon Ball. This is more natural, I believe, from the 1993 original to this movie than GT to Super. Now for the designs. It seems quite fitting that Paragus and Broly get the most updates in their wardrobe and the most characterizations. Now, subjectively speaking, I prefer the 1993 original designs, based on personal preference. However, in the 2018 movie, objectively, these new designs are better, as the context is better and they actually look how they're supposed to. Beaten, outcasted, scrutinized Saiyan warriors. Even when they get nice upgrades from Frieza, they still keep that sort of battered look on their faces. Although I will say this, they should have gone with the color other than pink for the tunic. I get that it seems to be a homage to Broly's earlier design, however, it clashes way too much. And I'm at least quite happy that in the Planet Vegeta flashback, Paragus is wearing a suit and facial hair similar to his 1993 design in the present day of the Broly movie. It shows that the people who made this movie do care about the source material and treat it with great love. Now these are just one kiddie's thoughts and opinions. So, you gotta tell me in the comments below who did it better for you. And that's a wrap.